Right now, tonight, if you are watching this after the sun has gone down, I want you to stop whatever you are doing with your money. Close the banking app, put down the statements, step away from the spreadsheet. Not because I am asking you to ignore your finances, but because what you are doing in this exact moment, in this specific window of time, may be quietly working against everything you are trying to build. I know what it feels like to sit in the evening and try to make sense of where the money is. I know the specific quality of that anxiety, the way it arrives when the house goes quiet and the day's noise fades and suddenly the numbers feel louder than everything else. The late check of the balance, the mental arithmetic that never quite resolves, the feeling that if you just look at it one more time, some clarity will come. I understand that feeling, and I want to tell you with the warmth of someone who has sat across from thousands of people carrying exactly this weight. What you are looking for in those evening hours will not be found in the numbers. What you are looking for is a sense of safety. And the tradition I am about to share with you teaches something that most modern financial thinking has never touched. That the evening hours carry a specific spiritual quality that makes them the worst possible time to assess, to count, to evaluate, or to worry over money. Not as a matter of mood or psychology, as a matter of how reality is structured at the level that precedes what we can see. My name is Rabbi Naomi, and in 30 years of teaching from inside the Jewish wisdom tradition, the Talmud, the Zohar, the writings of the Kabbalistic masters, and the practices passed through my family across generations, I have never encountered a principle more consistently ignored and more consistently costly than this one. What I am going to give you today are 4 specific reasons, rooted in the ancient texts, documented in the mystical tradition, and confirmed in my own decades of observation, why the counting of money after sunset is, in the language of our tradition, a spiritual act of diminishment. 4 reasons, each one precise, each one immediately applicable, each one carrying a specific instruction that changes what you do tonight and every night that follows. Stay with me through all 4. Do not move to apply the first until you have heard the last, because the 4th reason is the one that will make the other 3 make sense in a way they cannot make sense alone. And before we go any further, type the words "after sunset" in the comments right now. Declare that you are here and that you are ready to receive this. In our tradition, the act of naming the threshold you are crossing is the first step of crossing it with awareness. Type it now. Then stay. I want you to consider something carefully before I give you the 4 reasons. Imagine for a moment a merchant in 18th century Vilna, a real city, a real world, a world in which Jewish commercial life was extraordinarily active and the financial stakes for Jewish families were often matters of survival, not merely comfort. This merchant has a good day. Sales have been strong. The ledger, when he closes his shop at dusk, shows a number that gives him relief. He walks home through the narrow streets as the sky darkens, and at his table after the evening meal, he opens the ledger again. He begins to count. He counts what came in. He counts what remains outstanding. He counts what is owed and what is owned. And his wife, who has seen this her whole life because her own father did the same thing, quietly closes the ledger from above his hands and says, "Not now. After sunset, we do not count." He looks at her with the impatience of someone who believes he is being practical while she is being superstitious. And she says to him what her mother said to her, "The night does not receive counting. It receives rest. What you count now, you will count smaller than it is." He does not fully understand her, but he has learned across years of marriage that when she closes the ledger, he should listen. He goes to sleep. In the morning, the same number in the same ledger feels different, Not because the number has changed, it has not, because the light in which it is read has changed. And the light in which a number is read determines, at a level deeper than logic, what that number means to the life that holds it. This is not a story about optimism. This is a story about a principle that the tradition encodes with precision, and that the women of Jewish households, the carriers of the domestic spiritual wisdom, understood and protected for centuries, while the men with the ledgers sometimes did not. Now I will give you the 4 reasons. Each one is a layer of the same truth. Together they form something complete. The first reason is this. In the Jewish mystical tradition, nighttime is governed by a spiritual quality the Zohar calls din, judgment, constriction, the quality of measure and limit. This is not a sinister quality, it is a necessary one. Din is what creates boundaries, definitions, endings. It is what allows one thing to be distinct from another. But din is not the quality under which abundance is assessed, invited, or grown. The quality under which abundance operates is its counterpart, chesed, loving kindness, flow, the expansive force that does not measure or limit but gives without constriction. During daylight hours, and specifically in the morning, the tradition teaches that chesed is the governing frequency. The light itself carries it. The psalmist writes, and this is not poetry alone, it is a map, Lahagid baboker chastecha, to declare your loving kindness in the morning. The morning is when chesed is present in its fullness. When you count your money in the morning, under chesed, you are counting inside an expansive field. The number you encounter is held in a frequency that says, this can grow, this can multiply, this is a seed of something larger. When you count your money after sunset, under din, you are counting inside a constricting field. The number you encounter is held in a frequency that says, this is the measure of what you have. This is the limit. This is what you are defined by. The number has not changed. But what the number does to you and what you do to the number in that moment of assessment is entirely different depending on the quality of the time in which the counting occurs. I have watched this in practical terms for 30 years. People who review their finances at night consistently report a feeling of scarcity, even when the numbers are adequate. People who review in the morning report a sense of possibility, even when the numbers are tight. This is not mood, this is frequency. And the tradition named it with precision, centuries before the science of psychology arrived to describe it in different language. The second reason goes deeper. In the Kabbalistic understanding of how blessing flows into a household, there is a concept called shiur, measure, assessment, count. And the ancient teachers taught something that modern financial psychology is only beginning to approach from a completely different direction. That the act of counting your money is not a neutral act. It is a declaration. When you count, you are telling the spiritual realm, this is what I have. This is the size of my portion. This is the boundary of my abundance. And the spiritual realm, which in our tradition responds to declaration with confirmation, hears that boundary and confirms it. This is why the Talmud records that Job, made a practice never to count his flocks and his herds, not because he did not know what he owned, but because he understood that the counting of what you have is also the defining of what you have. The number you count becomes spiritually the ceiling of your expectation. You have told the source of your abundance exactly how much abundance you possess, and the source does not argue with you. It confirms what you have declared. Now multiply this by night, by the frequency of din and constriction. You are not just counting under the worst possible conditions for abundance. You are fixing your ceiling under the worst possible conditions. You are taking the most limiting time of the spiritual day and using it to do the most limiting thing you can do with your relationship to money. This is what the tradition means when it says that counting money after sunset diminishes it. It is not superstition. It is a precise description of a spiritual mechanism that has observable consequences in the material world. The third reason is the one that carries the most urgency for people who have been living with financial anxiety for a long time, because it addresses not just what you do to your money, but what you do to yourself. In the Jewish understanding of the human soul, the nighttime hours carry a specific vulnerability. The Talmud teaches that during sleep, a portion of the soul ascends, leaves the body, and returns partially to its source. This is why the first act upon waking in the morning is the recitation of Modeh Ani, the acknowledgement of the soul's return, the gratitude for having been restored. The night is a time of partial incompleteness in the human spiritual system. The vessel is not fully sealed. And when the vessel is not fully sealed, when the soul's full protective presence is diminished, what you take in during those hours goes in without the filtering and the holding that the daytime vessel provides. Fear that arrives during the day is processed by a complete spiritual system. Fear that arrives at night, the specific fear that comes from looking at a number that does not feel like enough, goes in unfiltered and settles deeper. The Hasidic masters called this hitkashrus shalila, a negative attachment formed in the hours of vulnerability. And what I have seen consistently in the people who sit with their financial fears at night is that those fears do not resolve by morning. They calcify. They become not a temporary feeling of concern, but a permanent layer of belief about what is possible for them. You are not just feeling afraid at night, you are teaching your deepest self, in its most vulnerable and receptive hours, that the numbers are the truth and the truth is not enough. That teaching does not leave when the sun rises, it stays. And it quietly shapes every financial decision, every conversation about money, every moment of opportunity you encounter. Because underneath the surface of your thinking, the night has told you what you are worth. This is the behavior, if I am being direct with you, of someone who has not been given the map. It is not stupidity. It is not weakness. It is operating without information that the tradition preserved specifically for moments like these. And now you have it. The fourth reason is the one I promised would make the others fully land. And I want to give it to you the way it was given to me, not as doctrine but as understanding. Because when you understand this, the other three reasons stop being instructions you follow and become things you know in your body. In the Jewish calendar, every day does not begin at midnight. Every day does not begin at sunrise. Every Jewish day begins at sunset. This is encoded in the very first chapter of creation, Vayehi Erev, Vayehi Voker. And there was evening and there was morning, one day. Evening first, morning second. The day begins in darkness and moves toward light. This is not arbitrary. The tradition teaches that this structure encodes the spiritual truth of how all growth works. It begins in the hidden, in the unseen, in the potential that has not yet manifested. Night is not the end of the day. Night is the beginning. It is the womb of the day that follows. And this means that what you do with money, with thought, with intention in the evening hours is not the conclusion of the financial day that has passed. It is the seed of the financial day that is coming. What you plant in the evening is what the morning grows from. If you plant fear in the evening, if you plant the energy of lack, of counting and finding insufficient, of sitting in the anxiety of the balance, you are planting that as the seed of tomorrow. You wake up already inside the feeling of not enough, because the night before, in the first hours of the new day, that is what you sowed. And if you plant instead gratitude, acknowledgement of what came in, release of what remains unresolved, trust that the morning carries chesed, and that tomorrow's light will illuminate what tonight's darkness cannot, then you wake up inside a different field entirely. The same circumstances, the same numbers, but a fundamentally different energetic ground from which you meet them. The counting of money after sunset is, at its deepest level, the planting of tomorrow's seedling in tonight's soil. And the tradition says, do not do this. Not because the numbers are bad, but because the night is sacred ground, and what you plant in sacred ground grows fast and grows deep, and you must be deliberate about what you choose to sow there. Here is the framework: immediate, specific, applicable, tonight. The three components draw on the tradition and can be in place before you sleep tonight, regardless of where your finances currently stand. The first, establish a hard stop for financial review at a specific time, ideally at least 90 minutes before sunset if your schedule allows, and never after it. This is not avoidance. You are not closing your eyes to your financial reality. You are choosing the field in which you assess it. Morning is the field for financial clarity. Morning under Hesed, under the full presence of your soul, under the expansive frequency of a day that has just begun. This is when the numbers are read most truthfully and most powerfully. Move your review there, even if it is only 10 minutes, even if the numbers are difficult. The morning can hold difficulty in a way the night cannot. The second component, create a specific evening declaration, what the tradition calls Hakarat Hatov Shel Hayom, the acknowledgement of the day's goodness that you speak aloud before you sleep. Not a comprehensive financial review. One sentence, something that names one specific financial movement of the day, however small, with gratitude and specificity. Not, I am grateful for my abundance. That is too vague to carry spiritual weight. Something with a specific detail. I am grateful for the client who paid today. I am grateful for the bill that was less than I feared. I am grateful for the meal that was on the table. One sentence, specific, spoken aloud. This is what you plant in the evening soil. This is the seed of tomorrow. The third component, and this one the Kabbalistic tradition is very specific about. Before you sleep, do not let the last thing you touch be your phone, your laptop, your banking app, or any screen that carries financial information. The last thing your eyes rest on before the soul partially ascends is the image your sleeping mind will hold. The tradition teaches that the soul carries the last impression of the day into the spiritual realm with it and returns in the morning still holding it. If the last impression is a number that frightened you, you will wake up inside that fear. If the last impression is something that carries the quality of safety, of gratitude, of beauty, a page of text that grounds you, a moment of deliberate stillness, the face of someone you love, you will wake up inside that. This is not soft advice. This is the mechanics of how the vessel is prepared for morning reception. These three components together, the morning review, the evening declaration, the conscious management of the last impression, form a complete daily practice that costs nothing, requires perhaps 4 minutes of intentional adjustment to your existing routine, and operates at the level of the spiritual vessel rather than the level of financial information. The information does not change. The ground in which it lives changes entirely. What I have given you today is one principle within a much larger architecture. The relationship between time and money, between the specific spiritual qualities of each hour, each day, each season of the Jewish calendar, and the financial life of a household, is a subject the tradition addresses with a comprehensiveness that I have spent 30 years mapping into practical guidance. The complete program I have built over those years, Zmanim Shel Shefa, the Times of Abundance, walks through the daily structure, the weekly structure, and the monthly structure of how to align your financial activities with the spiritual frequencies the tradition documents with precision. The link is in the description. If what you received today opened something in you, the complete architecture is there. I do not say this to create urgency that is not genuine. I say it because I know what one piece can do, and I know what the full system does, and the difference is not incremental. Before I release you tonight, I need to prepare you for something that will happen in the next 24 to 48 hours, with a consistency I have observed so many times, it no longer surprises me. After receiving a teaching like this one, the test that arrives is almost always the same. Tonight, or tomorrow night, something will pull you toward the evening review. An email will arrive with financial information. A worry will surface at 10 o'clock that will feel like it requires immediate attention. The thought will come, I will just check once. This is the test. And I want you to understand what is actually happening in that moment. It is not urgency, it is habit. The habit of meeting financial anxiety with more financial information in the hours when financial information does the most damage. The information will still be there in the morning. The account balance does not change overnight because you did not look at it. But what changes significantly, is the condition of the vessel in which you will receive it. Wait until morning. Let the night be the beginning it was designed to be. Plant what you want the morning to grow from. And if the worry comes and will not be quieted by resolution, if the anxiety is real and present and demanding, speak the evening declaration anyway. Name one good thing specifically. Release the rest into the night. Trust that the morning carries chesed and that chesed is sufficient. You do not have to solve it tonight. The night was not built for solving. It was built for beginning. Tell me in the comments, what is the one practice from today's teaching that you are applying first? The morning review, the evening declaration, or the last impression before sleep? Tell me which one. I want to know who is making the specific shift tonight, not someday. I read every comment and I will respond to as many as I can, because the people who name what they are doing create an accountability that the ones who only watch do not have access to. Next week, I am going to reveal a teaching from the Zohar about the first words spoken in the morning. Words that the mystical tradition says function as a declaration to the entire spiritual structure of the day about what kind of day it will be. Most people waste this window entirely without knowing it exists. If you are not subscribed with the bell on, you will miss it. And if what you received today landed for you, what is coming next week builds directly on it in a way you will not want to encounter only in fragments. Subscribe now and turn the bell on. And if this teaching shifted something real for you tonight, if it named something you have been experiencing without having the language for it, press the like button. There is someone watching right now who has been sitting with their phone in the dark at 11 o'clock, reviewing numbers that make them feel afraid, and they do not yet know that the tradition has a different instruction for them. Let the platform carry this to them tonight. May your evenings become what they were always meant to be, not the end of what is past, but the sacred beginning of what is coming. May what you plant in the darkness grow toward a morning that is larger than you could calculate in the night. May the morning find your vessel full and your spirit unafraid. Shalom.